today to talk about our spiritual well-being. We need spiritual nourishment. Look at what Jesus says as we examine this text again. Verse number 27. Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life. Do you see the contrast Jesus makes? He says, don't just be concerned about the food that takes care of your belly. I don't know about you, but I like to have good meals.
All right now.
I'm concerned about getting 3 squares a day.
All right. Yes, sir.
I have to make sure that I don't get more than 3 squares a day, so that I don't become not a square but an oval. You think about that for a while. And so there's a need to be concerned about physical food, but there's a greater need to be concerned about spiritual food. As important as it is to have physical nourishment, there is a greater concern we must face, and that is taking care of our spiritual man. Taking care of spiritual nourishment. Every one of us needs to be fed spiritually. Every one of us needs to be fed on the inward man. Don't you know that when God created you and me, He created us with a spiritual appetite?
Yeah. That's right.
Somebody says, well, I don't think that's in the Bible. Let me try to share it with you.
Come on now.
There are 2 places I want you to think about with me. One is Acts chapter 17. You remember Acts chapter 17? Paul was on what the King James Version calls Mars Hill. This was a gathering of people up on the Areopagus in the days of Paul in the 1st century in the Greco-Roman world. This was a place where the Bible tells us in Acts chapter 17, there were a group of people, philosophers if you will. All they wanted to do was to hear the next new thing coming through. Paul was in the marketplace. You know, the gathering where people are selling and trading. Some of you have been to free markets. You can get the idea of that. And Paul was in the midst of all that human traffic, and he started talking about Jesus Christ. And there were certain people who heard of Epicureans, Stoics, and they said, this guy's saying some interesting stuff. So they invited him up to the special Brainiac Club. Paul got up there to talk about Jesus. And when he talked about Jesus, the Apostle Paul lifted one of the most magnificent statements you can ever make. Listen to what he says as we look at the text. From one man, God made every nation of men. Pause for a minute. Don't you ever get caught up on race and culture. Don't ever get caught up on who's better and who's worse. Recognize that this is just a package we are in. The real man, the real woman is on the inside. This is just flesh and blood. And I tell you another thing, when it goes to the cemetery, one dirt will look just like the other. That's all it is. It's just the outward shell. Don't you get caught up. You too dark. You too light. Your hair too kinky. Yours too straight. Yours too straight. Yours too high. All this talk we do over stuff that simply doesn't matter. What matters is on the inside. I get caught on an accident on 565 and they have to take my body out of a wrecked car and take it to the hospital and say, you need some blood. I ain't gonna be asking what color is the Pope who are giving the blood. All I want to do is there a match? Give it to me! Give me that match! We found a match from some man who came from India. Give me the blood. We found a match from somebody who's real light-skinned of y'all. Give me the blood. We found a match with somebody who got nappy-headed. Y'all. Give me the blood. We found a match from somebody who doesn't have any money. Give me the blood. You see, it doesn't matter about the outside. What matters is the inside. And so the book says God made every man. He from one man made every nation of men that they should inhabit the whole earth. This is God's world. That's why you got folk all over the world. God designed it that way. And He determined should live. You weren't born here by accident. No culture of people was born someplace by accident. God's hand is behind world population. God did this so that men, watch it now, would seek him. Hold it a minute there. Why is it that people are always searching for something transcendent? God made humans that way. He made it so that there would be a yearning within us. Seeking help for something on the outside of us. He made that man would seek after him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he be not far from any one of us. We have to understand that God made us with a spiritual nature.
Yes, sir.
God designed us to get hungry spiritually. God designed us. Look at the text. This is the same God that has set eternity in the hearts of men. This is why you and I can't be satisfied with stuff that doesn't touch the soul. From a spiritual perspective, from God's perspective. When I talk about spiritual, I'm talking about reality as defined by God. Not as defined by man. God made us to seek after him. And this is why we have people who are reaching out for him desperately. We're living in a very unique time. According to some sources, perhaps 1 in every 5 persons would describe themselves as spiritual but not religious. Which means they say, I'm not a part of any religious organization, but I'm spiritual. You know, the sad thing is, many folk don't know what spiritual is. We got to understand what spiritual is. Spiritual, from God's perspective, means I see life. From God's perspective. I understand life from God's perspective. God has wired you and me to yearn for him, to seek out for him. This is not going to be satisfied in any other way unless we have nourishment from the only one who can truly nourish our souls, and that is the bread of life.
That's right.
That's it.
Jesus took this miracle that he did.
Yes, sir.
When he fed all those people with that small portion of food. And after they had eaten their fill, Jesus decided to give them a lesson. He said, in substance, you ate bread because you were hungry. And it satisfied the growl in your belly. And you're all feeling good. You got some carbs in your system. Maybe they were complex carbs. I don't know. But you got them in your system. And now your body is saying, thank you for feeding me. But Jesus says that kind of bread, that stuff's going to get to the point where the calories are burned. And the hunger is going to come back. And you're going to want more to eat. Jesus says, I want to give you some bread that you really need. You need spiritual nourishment. And I am the bread of life. Jesus wanted them to recognize the need for spiritual nourishment. We are people that yearn for spirituality, so to speak. We yearn for the transcendent. Most folk, if not all folk, recognize that there's got to be more than life than what we have down here.
That's good.
Life calls out for something more. This world doesn't often make sense. Things happen that don't make sense. They trouble us. And we can't help but yearn to think, is there more to life than this? And God is saying, I made you to ask that question. I want to let you know that there is more. I am the one you need to be seeking. I put eternity in your heart. I want you to seek after me. I want you to know me. Jesus comes to us and he says, are you hungry? But then there's another question we need to ask from this text. That question is, do you know what you should be eating?
Come on with it.
Do you know what you should be eating? Oh, this is a good question from Jesus. Do you know what you should be eating? Jesus challenged this audience to see the need looking for real nourishment.
Yes, sir.
Some people get it twisted. Like those in this episode we're reading about in John 6. Many don't quite know what they should be seeking, to misunderstanding the need for spiritual nourishment. There are people all over this world, all over this country, all over this city, who will talk about spiritual stuff, but they really don't know what they ought to be eating.
All right.
They recognize I need something more, but they don't fully understand
That's right.
the difference between true spiritual nourishment and fast food junk.
That's right.
Satanic deception has many supposed Jesus followers seeking a pseudo spiritual meal as a substitute
Yeah.
for the real thing.
All right.
You see this picture here of an apple and what might be a quarter pound or a Big Mac or something like that.
Yeah.
We ought to know by now that there's such a thing as empty calories.
All right.
These are calories that will add up on your body, in your body, but don't give you any genuine nourishment.
Right, brother.
This is why we end up in many cases being overweight physically.
Yeah.
Because for many people, they're so busy supersizing it that they're missing any substantive nourishment. Just because you can have a triple bypass burger and a big supersized package of fries and a quart-sized milkshake and a whole apple pie and take all of that down doesn't mean that you got any genuine nourishment.
All right.
We get a lot of junk food,
That's right.
and that junk food hardens our arteries. That junk food raises our blood pressure. That junk food takes our sugar level too high. We find ourselves getting sick because we know we're hungry,
Right.
but we don't always ask, what are we really eating? That same physical principle applies to the spiritual realm. People are talking about, I'm hungry. I really want something spiritual, but they don't know what to eat.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Jesus wants us to recognize what we really need to eat.
Right.